Bikini Bottom will SpongeBob and his fans.
Did they say that? I've never heard that before.
Mm. That's the intro to the episode.
Did they say that? A
Like,
bikini bottom thing?
Bikini Bottom. Yeah, that's like right at the beginning of the episode. It's after the intro, though.
Every single episode, though? Every single episode that's there?
It. I think it may be every single episode they have that like French narrator.
I don't know if I've heard. I mean, I don't know if I remember it, but like it
Yeah.
seems familiar. But
Hmm.
like I've watched like every single SpongeBob episode, so I don't know.
That's crazy. You need to do your homework on that.
Yeah, dude, that shit, dude. SpongeBob was one of the goat shows, bro.
I know, yeah. That's why everybody nowadays is so retarded, you know what I mean, including me. So, yeah.
Because yeah, that shit programmed. Like you know how like computers get programmed and shit. Like
Hmm.
we got programmed by what we watched, and like
But
SpongeBob was one of the main things. I'm
but
sure
then
you're like my age, right? Like somewhat. You're
yeah,
like 20,
I'm 25, but it's like not
25.
too far off.
I'm 26.
You're what?
I'm 26.
Oh, okay, yeah, we're about the
Yeah,
same.
yeah. We're about the
Yeah.
same age. Yeah,
But
yeah.
but at least SpongeBob is better than like, TikTok,
Bro,
Fortnite,
oh, no. Straight
Minecraft.
up, the shit that's out here right now that is programming our youth is so fucked up. It's like it's unbelievable how fucked up it is. Like I can't
That
even.
crazy?
It's like insane. Like that the generation below us, even like people who are like 20, right? They're
Hmm.
growing up on this shit, and
Yeah.
like it's gonna fuck them up like forever. Like they're gonna see people as objects. They're gonna see like
Yep.
money as the ultimate goal of life, and like
Yep.
they're being programmed like so like
And stuff, because remember they're the ones that started with the iPads when they're a kid. You know what
yeah
I mean?
yeah,
Versus
yeah,
our.
materialistic. It's a whole materialistic paradigm, right? It's like
Yep.
what you need in life and what you desire in life is all going to be materialistic.
And you can already see it with all those kids using TikTok and stuff. They're
No,
trying to imitate those dances. They're trying to dress a certain way
I
and
see
stuff
it.
like that.
Like no, I have friends that are 20 years old. Like I've met some people on here, on
Yeah.
people that I've made friends with that I've kept in touch with them. Like
Hmm.
I've FaceTime them like almost like on a consistent basis.
Hmm.
And I'm only 26. I'm only 6 years apart, but like they are completely different.
Isn't it crazy?
Like they just think that like getting famous on TikTok or YouTube or like Instagram
Any of those stuff.
or making money is the only goal in life, and like they're that programmed that like that's it. Like
It,
that's the holy grail that we're trying to achieve in life. But like
it's all about like either their status, you know what I mean, or money at this point. They're so distracted by that they don't focus on actual like careers, you know what I mean?
yeah.
I don't really know how to say it. It's like a same
No,
idea
no,
as
no.
let's
They,
say.
they do focus on careers, but it's just oriented around that main goal.
Yeah,
And
that's what I meant.
I
Yeah.
think I think the main um what would I call it? Is it a disagreement or a quarrel I have with it? Is that like
Mhm.
the main goal isn't actually the main goal of life. Like it doesn't
Mhm.
lead you to what you actually want. Like it's an illusion, is what I'm trying to say. Like
Yeah.
it promises you something that it won't deliver. That's what I'm
Mhm.
trying to say. I think in short, like
Yeah.
I think the younger generation is promised that if you make a lot of money or you get famous, that you're going to be happy. But that's
Mhm.
not the truth. That's kind of what I'm trying to like bridge into.
It's that, and then also those who chase the fame typically don't make it. You know what I mean? If you're doing like niches or anything like that genuinely, then you're gonna make it. Cause you see it, let's say with local musicians,
Okay.
the ones that focus on the fame and stuff like that. Typically, they're not gonna be the ones with either higher quality music and content, or they're going to be the ones not making it
Yeah.
because they're focused on the wrong stuff. So then
Yeah,
they don't end up working on their actual content.
that's true. That's really true as well.
But that's also like an estimate. Like a guesstimate. You know what I mean? There are obviously cases where like people who focus on success only, like me, like
Yeah.
fame or whatever or money, they end up making it.
Yeah,
But that,
but I mean, but what I'm trying
but
to say,
that's,
like, even if they do make it, like,
hmm
it, like, are they going to be happy? Like, I don't.
yeah, I know.
That's. I hear what you're saying. Like, I mean, you're saying like the first layer of it, and I'm
Hmm
talking about even if the first layer is accomplished,
hmm
is it still sufficient? That's.
Yeah,
I think that's the layer that I'm looking at it on. You're looking at it on this one. That's also really true. That it's a definitely a perspective that like needs to be considered.
yep,
But yeah, like I mean, like you're 25.
yeah.
Like, what do you think? Like, is like what do you think is like necessary for happiness? Like, what is the goal?
So that's a very interesting question. Do you mean what is the goal in life or what is the goal to happiness?
I would say they're the same question, but if you disagree with that, then explain to me why you would disagree with that.
Yeah. So for
Life is about happiness, right? Like life is. I mean, that's how I see it, at least.
well, goal the way so I think goal for I think it's different. So for goal in life, um, people I think both of them can be subjective. You know what I mean? And I'll explain.
I think
So
they're completely subjective for sure. Yeah.
yeah. So like with goals, to have a goal in life, there are people that they can set a goal for their life. But let's say there's someone who wants to buy, I don't know, a certain house in a certain place. Like, let's say a nice house in West Palm Beach, Florida, something like
Okay.
that. You know what I
Yeah. Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
That's their life goal. Or
Okay.
their life goal is to make it to a certain position in their career
Yeah.
or whatever, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but does that mean that goal is gonna make them feel that satisfied or you know what I mean or whatever when they get
Yeah.
to it? It doesn't mean that, and doesn't mean it's gonna bring them happiness. They don't know until it happens. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So pretty
Exactly.
much when it comes to goals in life, uh, you don't know what the outcome is going to be until you achieve that goal. Versus
Okay.
happiness, once you achieve happiness, it's actual happiness. You know what I mean? There's like like a true definition of happiness. But the thing is it's the other way around, in the sense that like happiness, you don't know what is gonna truly get you to happiness. Versus goals, you don't know what goals are gonna like satisfy you or lead you to happiness. You know what I mean? So it's like opposite steps. I don't know how to say that. You know what I mean?
Okay, hold on. Okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying, right? Like, it's like, okay, this is the way I see it, right? Like, happiness is primary, and then your goals are dependent upon what you think is gonna bring you to happiness. Isn't
Mm-hmm.
that how it works? Isn't that like the mechanics of how it works? Like, there is
Yeah.
happiness, and what your ideal of happiness is, and
Yeah.
your goals are structured in such a way that they bring you to that happiness that you have envisioned for yourself,
Yeah. Exactly. That's
right?
what it is. So
Okay, but
then,
yeah, yeah. So the next question is the happiness that you envision for yourself real or an illusion? That's the
so
next. Yeah.
yeah. So before answering that, I'll get to what brings happiness. So
Okay.
happiness is obviously not defined like equally among all people because everyone has different things that would achieve that happiness.
Okay.
Um, but I feel most of the time, people don't. People think they know what's going to make them happy when they don't realize that's not actually going to be the things that'll get
I
them
think
to be
that's true
happy.
as well. Yeah, I think that's true as
Um,
well.
so now getting more and also when it comes to happiness, it could be a wide variety of stuff. It could be stuff like someone, uh, I don't know, being a gamer, you know what I mean, and be able to play as many video games as they want, and then that they live their life happily like that. Or there's other people that they have a family and house and this and that or whatever, and they're living like in harmony with their family and in a decent situation. Then there's other situations like they're enjoying life, they're going out doing stuff, traveling, blah, you know what I mean? Or there's also other crazy extremes like people like serial killers could be happy, you know, killing people, or like rapists, like serial
Okay.
rapists doing
Okay.
that stuff.
Okay.
So it can go a lot of different ways.
Yeah, it can. I
But
mean, so, like, okay. Let me just interject. Right, like what I've heard you say up till this point is
mhm,
all the different envisionings of what would bring people happiness, right?
yeah,
But I'll say straight up, my perspective is that like all of those are illusions because my belief or my understanding of this is that like nothing objective in your life can bring you happiness. And what I mean by something objective is anything within the relative realm of life. Like any spouse, any amount of money, any amount of job.
I completely agree with you. So
Yeah.
that's where I was gonna go into my
Okay.
point of
Okay.
my
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
of
yeah,
myself.
yeah.
So so I think now this is the better way to explain all those other things. So those other things that I mentioned can be triggers to lead those people in the direction of happiness.
Yeah.
Those aren't the things that themselves that are the
Certainly. Certainly.
the
Yeah, yeah. I
sources of
think
happiness.
everything yeah,
So this is
so like I think everything, absolutely everything is a trigger to bring people to happiness because
yeah,
happiness is the source of
yeah,
existence. So like if you think about it, like we're kind of on the surface layer, but like there's only one place to go, which is
hmm,
back to the source, which is happiness. So like that's also the philosophy that gives you the phrase that like everything happens for a reason, you know, like everything is bringing you to a deeper level of understanding and deeper level of like yeah, yeah, like which will bring you to happiness. If you have true understanding, you have happiness.
yeah.
So that's my understanding of it.
Huh. Well, here's the way I see happiness. I see it as, this is a simplistic way of putting it. I see it very much as like the way to achieve it, the strategy to achieve it is very much like achieving confidence. So it's mainly a perspective, feeling, or whatever, a realization, you know what I mean? An internal realization.
Yeah.
So when it comes to confidence, I used to, when I was younger or whatever, obviously people, not obviously, but most people in middle school will be, you know, low self confidence and stuff like that or
Yeah.
whatever, and not have too much confidence or whatever. Over the years, I went to college or whatever, but like, and then in high school, I was like back and forth of like low confidence, high confidence, this, that, or whatever. But then in college, um, and this is the thing too, is when people say they have such low confidence, that's not true. Meaning like to the point of like no confidence. Or there's people who say they have 100% confidence. That's not true either.
Yeah.
Um, but it's possible to achieve it almost to 100%, which I gotten to a point almost to 100% of confidence.
So,
Um, so like it's because over time I realized, why should I give a crap about people judging me? You know what I mean?
uh,
So the only time I can find it's fine for people to judge me is if it's to better myself. So let's say if I'm being rude, disrespectful, this, that, or whatever, I will utilize that to improve myself. Um, so that's where it gets complicated, obviously. Um, but now going back to happiness is like to be able to, for me, let's say to achieve happiness, I'd say, and like happiness, another thing too is like when we're speaking about this, it makes it seem as if it's something that once you achieve happiness, it stays. You know what I mean? That's not always going to be the case. So I believe there were points in time where I had like true happiness. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But because of certain bad events or whatever, it can make me go
Yeah.
off of that
For
happiness
sure. For
trail.
sure.
But so basically, what it is like de-stressing yourself, just
Yeah,
your whole perspective on life and situations or whatever, and like being thankful for what you have or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like it's very simple and complex, but the simplest way to put it again is it's a internal thing. But also another thing too that's important to mention is it's not only about what you have control about. There are people who have chemical imbalances. So let's say certain psychiatric disorders like bipolar, borderline personality disorder, or
Yeah, I know a lot
depression,
about those. Like my mom has bipolar, and I might be
yeah,
bipolar, but I've never
and
got diagnosed like for it.
and then like depression and stuff like that. Like it can
Yeah.
cause like something that you would
See,
need
but yeah,
like
yeah,
certain
okay,
medication to
but
help you get out of that.
those are all mental states, right? Like I think
Yeah,
there exists a happiness that underlies all the mental states. Like you could
mm-hmm.
be quote unquote depressed,
Mm-hmm.
but still be happy.
Yeah,
In my,
actually,
in my
I know exactly what you mean.
yeah,
Actually,
like
yeah,
I think that's possible, because I think in like you said, like you can't always be there, but in certain instances, I've glimpsed that level of perspective where like you are a pure witness, or like you are like just like watching this movie of life unfold, and like because of that you're undisturbed, like you're
yeah,
completely untouched, undisturbed. Your body and your mind are going through hell, right? Possibly.
yeah,
But in that instance, you see it and you know that you are beyond all of that. And I think
yeah,
that is where true happiness lies, in terms of like knowing yourself, and like not knowing yourself in terms of like your body and your mind, but like knowing the reality of yourself. I think I think what I found is that like that might be the key to like lasting happiness, because even in the moments where we get glimpses of like true happiness, like it's usually when like we get what we want, right? Like in the moment that we get what we want, all the different illusions of what happiness is falls off, because we're no longer striving for something, and we return back to ourselves, which is the core of happiness. So we attribute happiness to getting what we want, but in reality the happiness existed within us all the time, but the
mm-hmm.
fact that we wanted something brought us away from our happiness, and brought in anxiety because we needed something to complete us.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make any sense, or I don't know?
It absolutely does because there's a reason why there are monks. You know what I mean? Buddhist monks or whatever that are able to achieve happiness without having luxury like or
Yeah,
seemingly luxurious situations of like wealth, family, this,
yeah,
that, or whatever. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
Like, do you really need all that? But at the same time, is
Yeah, at the it's
like,
I think
how do we truly know how they're feeling? Could they be lying?
we
This,
don't.
that, or whatever?
I don't. Okay, this is how I feel. Right, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're lying. I don't think they're lying at all.
Yeah, yeah.
They definitely achieve happiness, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it's possible to achieve that while living a modern life. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean? Like
definitely.
while having a family, while having money, while having like sustenance or whatever. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but it's harder to do it that way.
Because of all those distractions.
Yes, exactly. And I think that precisely what we're touching on right now is the challenge of the modern generation. Of
Mm-hmm.
we're like modern monks, like me and you. Like
Yeah.
like we are trying we were born in a society where you have to make a living, you have to interact with people, and like it's not really an option within our societal framework to become a monk. It's
Yeah.
not really an accepted norm. It's not something that's like
Mm-hmm.
really that accepted. So like, and I don't I think the monk stage of like people is an intermediary stage. I think there's nothing wrong with it at all. But like
Mm-hmm.
eventually, I think what life is bringing us to, life. I'm talking about life with a capital L, like life,
Mm-hmm.
God,
Yeah.
is don't reject life and don't reject your true nature.
Yeah.
Understand both at the same time. So understand the transcendent dimension of life and understand the imminent dimension of life and merge those two, marry those two, and live your life, right? Because we were incarnated for a reason. We were incarnated as bodies. So
Mm-hmm.
like we have to live. We have to make we have to eat food to live or else we're gonna die. So
Yeah.
like we have to our challenge of today's age is to merge those two, to understand the deepest thing about life, to understand that everything is completely fine. Like life is divine, life is eternal, life is infinite, while at the same time paying your bills and like doing all this like nitty gritty like down to earth like shit. We have to do both at the same time, and that is the ultimate challenge. And like I've been struggling with that. Like it's fucking hard as fuck.
It is. It is very.
Yeah.
It's. It's interesting the way of looking at it, cause like also what can definitely help is, now this is getting more to mental health and like situational stuff, is like if you develop coping mechanisms and better coping mechanisms over time, that can help you prevent yourself in falling into these distractions that'll like tear you away
Yeah.
from achieving happiness or
True,
continuing
true,
happiness.
true, true. I mean,
So like with
I mean, you're calling it coping mechanisms, but I mean, I call them like anchoring habits, like
mm-hmm,
habits that like anchor you into not getting too dragged away into that egoistic, needy, like craving, like addictive, like mindset. Like
yeah.
I'm trying to say, like I don't know if coping mechanisms would be the right word.
Well, what I meant is like meaning, let's say a traumatic situation
Okay,
happens of some sort or bad event or whatever,
okay.
is like having good coping mechanisms for those situations, meaning like ways to relieve and calm yourself down
Oh, okay,
and
okay,
cope with
okay,
it. You know what I mean?
okay.
It's good.
Okay, that makes sense
It's
now.
good to have
Yeah,
that in place. Because
that makes
whether
sense. Yeah,
people want to accept it or not, there are going to be bad events
yeah,
and to different measures of
yeah,
like levels or
yeah,
whatever that happen in people's lives
yeah.
for the most part. And like comparing for from early high school when I had no coping mechanisms when certain bad events happened or whatever, it was difficult versus when a number of crazy events or whatever happened in like 2019 or like a few years
But
before
now
then
you
or
have so
whatever,
many
and
coping mechanisms.
I was fine.
Yeah,
What?
you suppressed it. Like you essentially suppressed it by using your coping mechanism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's the same story for me. Like I fully that's so true, man. That's so
Mm-hmm.
fucking true. Like as we get older, like when we're young, we don't know any coping mechanisms because like we learn
Anything.
that that's like a different stage of
But also it
like
depends
ego
on each
development.
person. It depends on each person's life, how much willpower they have, and like mental
Exactly.
power and stuff
Exactly.
like that.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
number of people that I've met that are older than me or my age or this or that or whatever. That like I have a lot more coping mechanisms or like
yeah,
effective coping
yeah,
mechanisms or willpower than they do.
yeah.
Uh,
Because
so
it's all about how much are you willing to process, right? Like, and
and how
and
you go about it and everything like
and
that.
and and the thing is, like, the tighter your ego is, the less you're able to process. The
Mm-hmm.
more the more transparent or like thin your ego is, the more you're able to process.
Mm-hmm.
And processing it releases it from your system,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like in a sense.
No, I agree.
Yeah. So like
But the only time where it gets complicated is if there ends up being some sort of chemical stuff going on in the brain. And what I mean by that is like, let's say PTSD ends up happening because of certain stuff,
No, but
or
that
other stuff
also
like
still
that.
ties into the ego. That also still
It
ties into the ego.
it does, yeah, somewhat. You're
It
right.
does. Like it all comes back to like I mean, there's different frameworks of looking at it, right? I'm presenting the psychological framework, maybe like
Hmm.
psycho spiritual framework. Like
Yeah, yeah.
the ego represses and the
The
ego rejects.
philosophical, yeah.
Yeah. So like uh but it's also biological too because
Hmm.
like there's also so much uh, 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 processing ability that a single human being has, you know,
Hmm.
and that ties into the ego. Like how much trauma can they process without suppressing it? That comes into also your genetic physiology, like,
Hmm.
and so like it ties into all the different layers of like it's not just like one level. It's not just like spiritual. It's spiritual, mental, physical, everything. Like
Yeah.
and I think it's really important to understand that and yeah, like yeah,
Yeah.
it's like super interesting, man. It's like
No, I agree.
yeah, it's like this is what I'm fascinated by. Like this is what like wakes me up in the morning. This is what I want to like understand more and more. And the beautiful thing about it is that like I can study myself 24/7. You know, like
Hmm.
with certain courses in college, you go to class like 1 hour, like 3 hours a week, let's say. But like
Hmm.
with yourself, you can study yourself 24/7. And I've just gotten obsessed with just like under trying to understand the 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 different mental structures that that like make up my total mental framework from which I live. And like
Hmm.
I've made that like my life mission to like understand myself and like understand that, but also something deeper, like what is giving rise to that. So it's like that that honestly is my primary mission. Like what is reality? And then that has branched off into trying to understand the relative aspects of my human body and mind because my human body and mind are what prevents the true understanding of what reality is to shine forth, the glory of God to shine forth, you can say in like religious terms. Because
Hmm.
we are all reality. We are all God in a sense, like the way I see it. And what prevents that is our ego, basically. Like the frameworks in our mind that we have that delude us from the understanding of reality. So it's all about so first I understood that deepest essence of reality and then
Hmm.
now my work is to deconstruct everything that's getting in the way of letting that express itself. And that's been the most difficult journey that I've ever taken in my life. Like it's been hell because it's like parts of me are dying. Like it's all about it's not about building, it's about deconstructing, it's about dying, it's about unlearning, unprogramming all the stupid toxic shit that
It's like you have to force yourself to dissociate from a lot of other stuff to
yeah,
be able to like truly get to what's important. You know what I mean?
in the beginning it's important to dissociate, but then towards the middle stages if you dissociate it's not helpful because you have to process it. You have to
Hmm.
because that's what allows it to be released. That's what you start learning like the different mechanisms as to how you can fully be someone who is in touch with what's real. Like what is real?
Yeah.
Like and that's what I want to do eventually. That's my life goal. Like
Hmm.
we talked about goals in the beginning. We're going like full circle. Like
Yeah.
my life goal is to be in touch with what is real and dude, no, I've never said this out loud before, so
Yeah.
I fucking love you because
Yeah. Yeah.
this is the first time I've ever said this out loud,
Being
and
able to express all
yeah,
this.
and like
Yeah.
and it's almost like bringing tears to my eyes because like I've never had an opportunity to get to this point where I'm able to like understand consciously really what I really want, like what's my heart's desire. So like I'm really like yeah, I want to be in touch with what's real. That and
Yeah.
that's what I want. That's my main purpose in life.
And now to answer your question from earlier of what my life goal is achieving healthy happiness and like to be able to achieve it as much as possible, meaning in the sense of like as lengthy as possible.
Yeah.
Because I mentioned before how happiness it's not always gonna stay.
Yeah.
So with that being said, though, here's an important thing about happiness as well that I also touched upon at different points early on is there's different so it's like an internal thing or whatever, but there's unhealthy habits certain people can do in order to achieve happiness. um like certain people may end up only playing video games and then not exercising enough, then getting diabetes type 2 or this or that, or people may like rape, murder, this or that or whatever. um but I believe for a lot of those people, uh just as a side note before I continue, a lot of those people truly never like will make it to happiness if they're acting in those unhealthy habit ways. But there are some exceptions of people
Yeah.
making it to happiness that are doing unhealthy habits. So, and I believe so now that's getting to the point of my perspective of other people is I believe it would be great for everyone to make it to that goal of happiness, but healthy happiness. That's a key word on top of it,
Like
healthy
sustainable,
happiness.
like sustainable,
Because
something that lasts.
not only for their health, but also the ones around them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but most of the time, happiness ends up being a situation where the person happens to be healthy as well and doing healthy habits to themselves and or others.
Yeah.
But there are rare exceptions that they do
That's I think
bad
that's a
things.
beautiful that's an absolutely beautiful goal because like to me that ties in the absolute dimension that maybe I tend to lean towards with
Mm-hmm.
the relative dimension. Like you want to manifest it and you want to share it and you want to be it and like I think that's really really that's a that's almost another way to describe what I want, in a different way. Like so like I really resonate with that a lot. Um yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
No,
Like
I completely agree. It's
and like I think yeah, I think if we clarify our purpose, life brings it to us. Like it's weird how it works. Like we don't know how it's going to bring it to us and we don't know what we have to go through. We might have to go through hell because you have to if you have lofty like you have an extremely lofty goal, right? Like what you're
mm-hmm.
trying to say, what you're saying to me right now is not something that most people say. And
Mm-hmm.
the loftier your goal, the more you're going to be humbled, the more you're going to have to go through the the nitty gritty of life, the exact points of resistance within yourself that prevent you from understanding that. It's
Mm-hmm.
logical, right? Like if you aspire to this and there's this and this resistance blocking you from this, then to get to this, you have to go through this and this resistance. And
Yeah.
that's what's happening in mine and your life. Like we we have goals that are like that we have contemplated on and I think we really want and come from a very soulful place. But like to get to that point, we have to go through all the different challenges that we've been rejecting our whole lives and like we're too scared to go through. That's the thing. Like you have to go through your deepest fears if you want to achieve the greatest of goals. And I think that's what you've described to me. You've described one of the highest goals I've heard from anyone.
But
So
then that also brings up an interesting point. What you were just saying is, could it be what I'm a little bit rebuttaling with what you said. It is possible to make it to happiness, to without struggle, uh, but that doesn't mean you're never going to come across struggle. So or like those obstacles or whatever. Um, so or maybe I accidentally misheard one thing you said. I think
I
you
mean, no,
maybe
no, no,
were
but I
referring to
mean,
goals and stuff.
we're not talking about coming across happiness. We're talking about
Oh,
lasting happiness.
okay. Oops. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Um,
No, no,
but
I'm saying like, yeah, you can obviously like anyone can stumble upon that happiness, right? Like you said, like a rapist when he's
yeah, yeah,
raping someone or whatever, like he's quote unquote happy because his desire in life is achieved, and in that
yeah.
moment he returns to his natural state. But what we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about is sustaining that,
Sustaining. Oh, okay. That makes
like
sense.
you said, like healthy happiness, like sustainable happiness, right?
Yeah.
Like that goal necessarily entails working through all of your resistances to that state of natural happiness.
Yeah. And coping mechanisms are really helpful in sustaining that um happiness because the coping mechanisms can prevent you from getting distracted uh, and like dissociating from your happiness. Not because of what's actually happening in front of you, but the way you're internalizing what happened in front of you. You know what I mean?
I just kind of don't like the term of coping mechanisms because
Mm-hmm.
I think in the end everything must be processed.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything must be processed, and so
True, true.
I
It
think
depends. It depends on the way you internalize the situation. Is maybe the best way to put it. But coping mechanisms can help you internalize it better.
yeah, so that's why I call them anchoring habits, like
Mm-hmm.
instead of like because coping mechanism to me has like the connotation that like you're trying to like distract yourself from something.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true.
But
And
like,
there are people that make that mistake in
yeah,
distracting
yeah.
themselves
No,
instead of
there's
processing it. So that is a
and
very good point.
if you have certain goals, like let's say you just want to be like a CEO of a company, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's your ultimate goal in life. You can live with coping mechanisms, and you can die like quote unquote happily, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if your goal is what you've told me is to like live sustainably happy,
Mm-hmm.
you necessarily have to work through all of the resistances that you have towards the understanding that you are by your very nature happiness.
Yeah.
You have to work through all those like, and it all comes from the ego. It all comes from the egoic identification with the body.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like the fact of the matter, I think. And I'm just going based upon what I know at this point in time, and like I could be wrong, but
And that brings up another very interesting point is how much do we really know right now? You know what I mean? Is like we think we may be at like a higher point in
yeah,
knowledge in regards to like these perspectives of these situations or
yeah.
whatever, but maybe there's certain thing like a thing or things
That,
that we're
that,
missing or not
that's
able to
definitely true.
comprehend just yet.
No, that's 1,000,000% true. And like I feel like I've been humbled like so many times that like I
Mm-hmm.
have permanently taken a position of okay, this is what I feel now, but it may not be right. And like,
Yeah.
I've been
Year
humbled
by
a million times. Yeah.
year by year, let's say my talents and hobbies, I get better at them. Sometimes worse, but sometimes better. and that can be applied also with my knowledge, the way I react to situations, etc. People can go backwards, they can go forward, they could go forward in different ways, they can absorb more knowledge. Will they comprehend it at the time? I don't know, it all depends. With that being said, it goes back to that original thing I was saying, is that we don't know how it's going to be a year from now, or maybe it'll be 5 years from now. We'll start comprehending it or understanding more or whatever. Or maybe we already achieved it now. We don't know.
Yeah,
Of like the comprehension of how to get to happiness. But I'm not saying we achieved happiness
yeah,
now,
yeah.
but I'm just
No,
saying
no.
like
Yeah, but like,
comprehending the theory.
yeah. I mean,
So it's just interesting.
it is extremely interesting. Yeah. But yo, I gotta go take a piss, so I think I'm
Yeah, yeah.
dude, that was a fucking great conversation. I
I
really,
completely agree. It was nice to meet you.
dude, and we started with you singing like SpongeBob. I was like, what the fuck is
I
this?
know. Isn't that weird how life can be too?
It
You know what I
is
mean? You just
weird, man. It's
you
weird.
never know what can happen.
You never,
Literally,
like, I would have never expected a deep conversation after that SpongeBob shit. I thought you were a fucking wacko. Like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
You just never know. Tiny decisions in your life can
exactly.
cause you to go to the
Yeah, you never
paths you
know.
would never know.
And that's what humbles me also. Like, life knows better than I do, and I don't know shit. And like, life
Mhm.
will bring me to my understanding if I'm sincere in my intention. That's the
Mhm.
only thing I understand.
Mhm.
But yeah, all right, man.
But it was nice to meet you. Bye bye.
Peace out, brother.
Bye.